So this right here, this interview here is the thing that has got people saying it's over, Trump has lost the election, all that type of stuff. He's lost it in a major landslide because he said that Kamala Harris a few days ago or a few weeks ago was Indian and now she's suddenly black and all that type of stuff there that the mainstream media would obviously, try to spin. However, in this video here, I'm going to be explaining to you guys why it is that this interview actually boosted his chances of winning.
And she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black?
She is always identified as a black woman. She went to a historically black college.
I respect either one, but she obviously doesn't.
We're going to cook today is an Indian recipe.
Yes.
Because you are Indian.
Yes.
Okay, and I don't know that everybody knows that, but I find that wherever I go and I see Indian people at the supermarket, on the street, everyone's like, you know Kamala Harris is Indian, right? It's like the thing we're so excited about.
He's been doing a lot of active outreach around the South Asians, around the API in general, and we'll continue to do it. I mean, what we know in particular when you're talking about the South Asian community, we're talking about the Indian community more specifically, it is a growing community in the United States in terms of its voting bloc, in terms of its participation, and I think the party knows that and knows that this is part of our collective community, and there needs to be outreach and inclusion.
And certainly you could become the first Indian senator in U.S. history, which would be quite an accomplishment.
Professor Harris says he's Caucasian, mixed Irish and Hindu. He doesn't have any black ancestors, but his Irish ancestors owned a lot of slaves in Jamaica and had them to work on plantation. So if mama is on the birth certificate listed as a Caucasian, daddy says he's a Caucasian Hindu and has no black ancestors, how did she get to be black? Now,
the mother kept her connected to her roots. Her grandfather, who had strong views on humanitarian issues, worked closely with officials to reallocate refugees. Their conversations had a strong influence on her.
Those walks along the beach.
Before we get started, this right here is going to be like one of three because this is kind of a series and I kind of want to, kind of put the kibosh on the Democratic Party nominee or presumptive nominee. Because honestly, to tell you the truth, I mean, there is a lot to discuss, but it's going to be about 3 videos total. This right being the first of the 3. This right here will be focusing primarily on what Trump said, reacting to it, and me explaining to you how it is that it will ultimately help him rather than hurt him. Also, video number 2 will be focusing more in on the politics and how it will be spun. And number 3 will be more of an actual deep dive on the person herself. And I'm going to kind of leave that one alone. You'll hear me say it in the next segment, kind of hint towards it one more time, how the week's going to go. But I just want to give you guys a heads up before we get started that's pretty much how this little series is going to go. So make sure you guys stick around for the full bit. We got a lot to discuss, so let's go ahead and get into it. Now, for 35 whole minutes, I would say that Trump actually got the same question over and over again at the NABG, which is basically a forum for black journalists. And, of course, he pretty much got the same question over and over again, not just the ABC reporter that you guys got a little bit of a glimpse of, not just the reporter from Fox News, Harris Faulkner, not just her. He basically got the same question, like I said, over and over again. It was more or less how the question was asked to him or put to him, which, by the way, gauged his response. Now, if you know Trump, then you know that obviously this guy does not have any filter. But if you guys remember what happened back in 2016 when Megyn Kelly asked the question, and Trump's response, of course, was the, you've called women fat pigs, all that type of stuff there. And Trump, of course, simply said, only Rosie O'Donnell. It's that moment that actually propelled him into the spotlight. Now, people are going to point out the polling data. People are going to point out the fact that Kamala Harris has received a boost. However, the thing is this right here. It's a boost, and if you actually go into these polls, you see that there's a massive oversampling of Democrats, which is something called response bias, which is exactly the same thing that happened after the first debate between Romney and Obama. Romney beat the hell out of him in that debate. The next thing you know, he received a massive boost, except it wasn't really truly a boost. It was response bias. Trump was up the entire time, and of course, his decision desk, HQ, has been pointing out in their averages, things haven't really changed as far as the overall political average itself or polling average has. Also, to go on top of this, Trump is still up by 2 in the RCP aggregate, even though there was a poll that came out where he was down by like 7 or 8 points. these polls aren't really affecting anything because at the end of the day, people can kind of see what the hell it is, a manufactured boost for Harris. But obviously, to go with that there, just about everything about this woman is in fact manufactured. This video right here is going to be more looking at the interview and me, of course, explaining to you why it is that this topic just got repropelled into the spotlight. That topic being diversity, equity, inclusion, DEI, and why it is that it will actually help Trump out. The second video will be about how it is that the media is going to go out of their way to criticize you for criticizing her, and that's how the game is going to be played this time around. And the third one, of course, is going to be about the additional information that has came out about Miss Harris, that if you actually just dig a little bit, you will find exactly how bad this woman really and truly is. And of course, Saturday's video will probably be about the Sneeko Moist critical debate. So just going to go ahead and give you guys a bit of a heads up on how the week is going to go. With that out of the way, let's go ahead and dive in. Now, let me go ahead and say this first and foremost. When you go to a conference like what Trump went to yesterday, you're walking into the snake pit. You're walking into an antagonistic environment. And if you watch the full 30 minutes, it was antagonistic roughly 2 minutes in, as you guys will see now.
Animal and rabid to describe black district attorneys. You've attacked black journalists, calling them a loser, saying the questions that they ask are, quote, stupid and racist. You've had dinner with a white supremacist at your Mar-a-Lago resort. So my question, sir, now that you are asking black supporters to vote for you, why should black voters trust you after you have used language like that?
Well, first of all, I don't think I've ever been asked a question in such a horrible manner, a first question. You don't even say, hello, how are you? Are you with ABC? Because I think they're a fake news network.
I'm not surprised that they chose to go ahead and ask questions like this and come at him a certain way right off the bat, that certain way being very, very aggressive. It's almost as if to say they were going out of their way to get an aggressive response from Trump. Now, many people, of course, especially those online who are good at certain issues but terrible at overall political strategy, think that the president's, let's just say his run is over. When in reality, these people also did not watch the full 35 minutes. They just simply reacted to a 20-second soundbite, which, of course, I'm going to give you all the moments leading up to that. Like I said, this video is probably going to be relatively lengthy, but a lot of it, of course, has got to be discussed. The thing is this right here, that was a loaded question right off the bat. You should not actually give somebody a loaded question. And I think that the president's response, the former president's response, was wholly justified. But we got a lot more to cover. So let's go ahead and get to some more of this interview.
Network. And I think it's disgraceful that I came here in good spirit. I love the black population of this country. I've done so much for the black population of this country. Including employment, including opportunity zones with Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina, which is one of the greatest programs ever for black workers and black entrepreneurs. I've done so much, and, you know, and I say this, historically black colleges and universities were out of money. They were stone cold broke, and I saved them, and I gave them long-term financing, and nobody else was doing it. I think it's a very rude introduction. I don't know exactly why you would do something like that. And let me go a step further. I was invited here, and I was told my opponent, whether it was Biden or Kamala, I was told my opponent was going to be here. It turned out my opponent isn't here. You invited me under false pretense. And then you said you can't do it with Zoom. Well,
she wasn't there. She took that vote for granted. Jesse Waters pointed this out and brought that point home for about 5 minutes out of his 12-minute monologue in last night's segment, which I will link in the description below. I'll probably play some of that during this video here, but obviously the black vote has been taken for granted. But I also want to say this right here to Republicans out there or Republican strategists who think that they can just pick off black votes. It's not going to happen. What will happen is that black males will come out and vote for Donald Trump, and black males will stay home not wanting to vote for Kamala or Kamala, whichever one you might want to call it. I personally prefer Come Queenly Imhoff, which is exactly what Judge Joe Brown said. Judge Joe Brown, by the way, did a recent interview here that I thought was very good on the Art of the Dialogue, where he really threw some stuff out there, which will probably get some of that we played here, especially when we talk about Kamala Harris's race. There's also some other things that have come out, have been unearthed, that I think people need to hear that we'll be talking about over the next couple of videos. But I want to stick to the reaction, or at least to this interview for the most part. The fact of the matter is, when Trump was in office, black unemployment was down, jobs were going through the roof, and Kamala Harris, of course, what did she do? As the borders are, she completely opened up the border, and of course, well, people say it was Biden. I've said it was Biden. I think it's Biden and Kamala both. But of course, black people are being replaced, and their jobs are being replaced. Case in point, a piece of that Jesse Waters segment from last night's segment, this right here.
A lot of the journalists in this room are black. I will tell you that coming from the border are millions and millions of people that happen to be taking black jobs. You had the best.
What exactly is a black job, sir?
A black job is anybody that has a job. That's what it is. Anybody that has a job.
All right.
And
Mr. President,
they're taking the employment away from black people. They're coming in, they're invading. It's an invasion of millions of people, probably 15, 16, 17 million people. I have a feeling it's much more than that. And everybody's been seeing what's happened. The first group of people, the black population, is affected most by that, and Kamala is allowing it to happen.
This right here is the segment that, by the way, nobody wants to play. There was also this little bit about black jobs, too, which, of course, Trump actually answered perfectly by saying it's all jobs because everybody has got access or everybody has got the same opportunities to get a job. However, the topic of DEI at this moment in time has been put right back into the spotlight, and this right here is the main reason why it is this interview actually helps Trump out, because he walks into the lion's den. He knows the interview is going to be antagonistic. His opponent refuses to go. She'll be going on Zoom where she'll get easy questions and probably won't know how to answer them because everything she says, quite frankly, is a word salad. And, of course, there are some people who have some thoughts on that.
Xi Jinping, is he supposed to be impressed? She's doing word salad. Well, we're here today because China and the U.S. are here today, and that's why we have to agree on what we're doing here today. Like, fool, what did you just say?
There'll be more from Judge Joe in the future over the next few videos. That art of the dialogue or that interview that he did that was roughly 23 minutes long, there was a lot in that. There was also this bit from, what was it? Oh, yeah, the Jimmy Dore show of all people. Very, very, very juicy things about this woman and her past. Just saying. But let's get back to the interview.
Where's Zoom? She's going to do it with Zoom, and she's not coming. And then you were half an hour late, just so we understand. I have too much respect for you to be late. They couldn't get their equipment working or something was wrong.
Mr. President, I would love
I think
if you
it's
can
a
answer
very
the question
nasty
on your rhetoric
question.
and why you
I have
believe that
answered
black
the
voters
question.
should trust you with another 4
I have
years.
been the best president for the black population since Abraham Lincoln. That's my answer.
Better than President Johnson, who signed the Voting Rights Act?
And for you to start off a question and answer period, especially when you're 35 minutes late because you couldn't get your equipment to work, in such a hostile manner, I think it's a disgrace. I really do.
Let me just ask a follow-up, sir, and then.
Yeah, where's Zoom at? The whole interview itself, the way it was constructed, was obviously what not to do when you do an interview. And like I said, you've got people out there saying that this right here was the end of Trump, when in reality, if anything, it's just the end of black journalism. Nobody's going to take black journalism serious going forward. Look, here's the thing about DEI. The problem with DEI is that now people look at the people of color and they automatically think themselves they get this job because of their race. DEI actually hurts black people in so many ways. It's absolutely ridiculous. But I do want to talk a little bit about what she was saying there, which she tried to interrupt him and say, better than LBJ. So what great thing did LBJ actually do for black people? I could already hear somebody talking about voting rights. I could hear somebody talking about great society. I could already hear somebody talking about the Civil Rights Act. However, they're not going to tell you about how it was that black men were drafted to fight the Vietnam War. They're not going to talk about how it was that the Black Panther Party came about in response to LBJ and not really anybody on the Republican side of the aisle. They're not really going to tell you that there are obviously reasons for it, because the truth be told about Lyndon Baines Johnson was he was just trying to secure a simple voting base by giving them all kinds of free crap. Check it out. When people talk about voting rights, they fail to mention that black people were already voting Democrat in the 1930s. They supported FDR and the policies of the New Deal. They were already voting Democrat then. What happened in the 1960s was that Lyndon Baines Johnson just went out of his way to secure that vote for the next 300 to 500 years. Case in point, him saying, I'll have those N-words voting such and such amount of time. That's all the hell it was about. The Civil Rights Act, of course, was actually a bill that was given to President Kennedy, and Kennedy did not want to sign it initially because he understood that there could be ramifications That will be talked about in another video at a later date. But the Great Society plan basically incentivized mothers, black mothers, to not get married, to have children, and live on the government. Which, of course, is really a large reason why it is people stereotype people of color today. Like I said before, if you guys are not picking up on a bit of a theme, like I said, this interview actually helps Trump a lot more than you'll ever know. But I'll get to that here in a second. Let's watch some more.
On to other questions here. Some of your own supporters, including Republicans on Capitol Hill, have labeled Vice President Kamala Harris, who is the first black and Asian American woman to serve as vice president and be on a major party ticket, as a DEI hire. Is that acceptable language to you? And will you tell those Republicans and those supporters to stop it?
How do you define DEI? Go ahead. How do you define
diversity, equity, inclusion?
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Is that what your definition?
That is
give me a
literally
definition
the words
then. Would you give me a definition
DEI.
of that? Give me a definition of
Sir,
that.
I'm asking you a question,
No,
a
you
very
have to
direct
define
question.
it. Define it for me if you would.
This right here is a masterclass by Trump. He is forcing her to define the issue. He is forcing her to give him the definition. By the way, this right here is a news story that will only last about 24 hours because it is an election year, and more stuff will come out. I mean, you're also effectively making the Harris campaign simply run on the issue of I'm black, when obviously you're not. Go back to the very beginning of the video, and don't worry, this topic of her race will be coming up in the next 2 videos that will come out this week. One later on today and one on Friday. Or it may end up being 2 on Friday. It depends on how the day goes. You guys know me. I'm not exactly somebody who's just free to do whatever during the day. But the thing is this right here. This interview is a masterclass because it's forcing people who claim DEI is good to try to defend it, which for whatever reason they refuse to do, as you will notice here in this clip here.
Very personification of diversity.
Ah, the very personification of diversity. Let's play that again.
Strength, optimism, and joy. And she is the very personification of diversity. You can see it in her, and her diversity embraces the world, from Jamaica all the way down to South Asia, India. And beyond that, what she has done proves her embrace of diversity. She has officiated at over gay weddings all over.
Well, you know, I just got to call out George for insulting Kamala Harris like this, because as we know, calling her a DEI hire is it's an insult. And
if diversity, equity, inclusion is so great, then why not defend it? Why not say I'm proud to be a DEI hire? Why not do that? Because you can't defend it. You know that diversity, equity, inclusion is indefensible. The only thing Trump is doing is forcing these people to defend their position. And this right here stole the momentum away from Kamala Harris. So that way she can just simply run on her fake blackness because she's not really black. But if you listen to Tommy Laird, a person who quite frankly only got her job because of her looks, if you listen to Sean Fitzgerald or Lauren Southern, a Canuck who's not from the U.S. or understands American politics, if you listen to any of these doomers who've not been right about a damn thing in 2024 or this presidential cycle, they would have you believing that this man's presidency or potential second term is not going to take place, when in reality, this right here gave him a ridiculous boost. Let's get back to the interview.
Believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is only on the ticket because she is a black woman?
Well, I can say no. I think it's maybe a little bit different. So I've known her a long time indirectly, not directly very much. And she was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. So I don't know.
She has always identified as a black woman. She went to a historically black college.
I respect either one, but she obviously doesn't, because she was Indian all the way, and then all of a sudden she made a turn, and she became a black person.
Just to be clear, sir, do you believe that she is...
I think somebody should look into that, too, when you ask continue in a very hostile, nasty tone.
It's a direct question, sir. Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is a DEI hire, as some Republicans
I really don't
have
know.
said?
I mean, I really don't know. Could be. There are some, and there are plenty. I know this lady right over there, Harris, is a fantastic person who just interviewed me at length, and we had a great interview, I think, and I heard you get...
Bingo. Look, at this moment in time, Kamala Harris is trying to denounce the fact that she was ever in favor of free health care, which obviously I brought the receipts to expose that.
Just to follow up on that, and correct me if I'm wrong, to reiterate, you support the Medicare for All bill, I think initially co-sponsored by Senator Bernie Sanders. You're also a co-sponsor on it. I believe it will totally eliminate private insurance.
This is true. You guys are seeing this stuff right here in the B-roll footage. There was even a bit by CNN back when she ran for president for 2020 where they focused primarily on her being Indian, mostly Indian, raised Indian, not to mention the fact that she actually went to high school in Canada. We'll be talking more about that in the follow-up video because, like I said, there's more and more and more about this person that is being unearthed every single day that the media is trying to scrub. The harder you try to censor the net, the more and more and more what you're trying to censor gets out. These people don't seem to understand that that's how that works. Look, this woman, you guys saw at the very beginning of the video, she was running on the Indian ticket. Then all of a sudden, out of the middle of nowhere, she flips to the black ticket, almost like it was when she decided to flip-flop on the Medicare issue, like she wanted to flip-flop on the gun issue. This right here is a person who just simply says things for political convenience. By the way, going back to that rally she had in Atlanta where she had so many people at that arena, that was actually a concert for Megan Thee Stallion and one more rapper. Also, something else, too, is that Hillary Clinton did the exact same crap. She used Jay-Z and Beyonce concerts to try to pander to the black to black Americans. The truth be told about Queen Emhoff is that she's got less working class support or less working class appeal than what Hillary Clinton had. She only has city appeal and suburban appeal for resist lib types and single white women who are cat ladies, like J.D. Vance said, and black women. Black men, on the other hand, they probably aren't going to vote for her. Well, actually, more than likely, they won't vote for her. A lot of them have already said that they won't, and some, of course, are voting for Trump. But then again, at the same time, though, the beginning of this video, I told you guys that this would actually help Trump, and here's why it will help him. Well, for starters, what it does is it takes the news cycle away from Kamala Harris and puts it right back on Trump, so therefore it's free press once again. Also, to go on top of this right here, it puts the diversity, equity, inclusion question back out there, and as you guys will see in this clip right here, it's pretty much, look, you got to ask the question, look, you claim that you want diversity, equity, inclusion, but for some odd reason, you people don't want to defend it. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. Yesterday, I was listening to Richard Barris, probably the best pollster in the country, okay? And the guy over at Rasmussen Reports is running polls there. He's doing a pretty good job. A lot of people have polled this issue, and you hear people saying stuff like, where you see polls where Trump is at 23, 26% of the black vote. I personally don't believe he'll get that, probably closer to like 15 or 16%. But if you go to NBC Swing the Election, what you'll notice is that vote doesn't really swing a whole lot. If anything, Hispanic vote is what actually swings more voters. Believe it or not, if you go to the Asian or other category, you can actually get swing more states, especially states that are needed battleground states, if you get those votes. Or if you increase your white turnout, that actually is much, much more effective. The truth be told about Donald Trump is he's already maxed out his black vote. Seriously, he's already maxed it out. When they named Queen Emhoff as the nominee or presumptive nominee, her black women's support went through the roof. Anybody that was unsure, that was black about voting for Donald Trump, probably would have stayed home, voted third party. And those people who were mostly unsure were the same people who hated the idea of Kamala Harris because they don't view her as a proper representation of the black community. And as you guys can obviously see, that if you look in her past, you find out that she's more Indian than anything else. So how in the world does this help Trump out? Well, when Trump says what he says, what it does is it brings diversity, equity, inclusion back into the conversation, back forefront, and people will begin to see that people are now being hired based upon their race rather than actual literal merit. It's an issue that, quite frankly, he does, in fact, need to clamp down on. It paints these people into a corner where they have to defend the indefensible. And then to go on top of that, you're also looking at people who don't get politically motivated or politically engaged until the very end. They hear this and they automatically think to themselves, wow, he just said exactly what I thought. These right here were people who were already on the fence about supporting Harris or thought about voting third party that wouldn't vote for Trump, now all of a sudden they agree with him on an issue that may be actually affecting them, you could see a bit of a, how do I say this? You could see a bit of a drift towards Trump. It would be last second voters. Like I said before, Trump's already maxed out his black support. However, he has not maxed out the white support or the Hispanic support and potentially his overall Asian support. These right here are groups, by the way, who are being affected by diversity, equity, inclusion because they're seeing their job opportunities being given to somebody who's just simply getting the job because of their race and race alone and not qualified. So stop listening to pundits who are only there because they're bubble-headed bleach blondes and they yell and scream and holler at you in the camera. Stop listening to single mother Canucks who offered full custody to their husband in exchange for them to be able to come back overseas. Mothers don't leave their children or offer up their kids to full custody. And stop listening to soy boys posing to be actual, literal men who live in very, very liberal New York and don't know anything about politics outside the city of New York. With that right there being said, guys, please hit the like button. Please leave a comment. I'd love to hear what you guys have got to say. There's going to be about 3 videos on this same topic. This is part 1, the initial reaction. But please leave a comment in the comment section. I would love to hear what you guys have got to say, and I'll see you guys later.